been the kindest of people with you, right?
That is true.
But you're such a lovely
No,
friend, and you never say no, Naren. I think.
no, it's my pleasure. What you guys are doing is really revolutionary, almost. They're changing the face of education.
With friends like you, it just becomes a tad bit easier. So
True that.
Yes.
And then,
yes.
how are you doing? What's in your things to do list?
So we're trying to do a little bit of fundraising this year also for students for arranging their scholarships. It's been difficult. We're also trying to tell people that COVID is not going to go away, so they better start thinking about ways to live with it and continue with their lives. So it's a tough one. I mean, parents don't want to send their kids too far. I think the atmosphere is not really what we were expecting. So year 2020 hasn't really been not something that I think a lot of us were looking forward to, but still trying to make the most of it. This webinars has been great. I think it's been an amazing way to connect with people and to get people like you to meet as many people as possible. So I think, yes, technology helps.
So we're live on YouTube as well. And we're close to more than 150 participants. So we can formally start if you wish.
Okay, wow. Thank you. So a great warm welcome to DAV Ludhiana. My name is Avnee. I am a fellow trustee at Shoolini University and also the vice president and the head of admissions here. I'll be your host today for this great webinar. We also have our very, very dear friend, Dr. Narendra Charmoulay. A quick introduction, Dr. Narendra Charmoulay has been the R&D head for Biocon for many, many years. A lot of great new drug discoveries that happened in Biocon. He was the man behind it. He's also worked in the world's most famous and largest biotechnology company called Amgen, where he was again in the R&D profile. Naren is also a visiting professor, and he's associated with many Ivy League universities like the University of Pennsylvania, UPenn. He's also a visiting faculty at Shoolini and a dear friend. I see some art behind Naren, and I'm sure it's there for some reason. But also, let me tell you, he's also a very, he's quite an artist. He's a scientist who's an artist. He plays the flute. Clearly, there is some interest in paintings because I can see one at the back. And he's an amazing speaker, and you will just get to know in a couple of minutes why I say that. So welcome, Naren. Thank you so much for joining us for another beautiful webinar, and welcome everyone at DAV Ludhiana. Over to you, Naren.
Thank you so much, Avnee, for the very kind introduction, and Kamal and also Shikha for organizing all of these. And we've been in conversation for several weeks before this, so thank you so much. I'll share my slides now. Thank you. So good evening, afternoon to all of you. It's 7 a.m. for me here. And I'm going to talk a little bit about what I call my experiments with self-awareness. And what I do is I've got a lot of experiences. All of us who have white hair have got a lot of experiences. And I think I've found a way to share these experiences in a systematic manner through writing some blogs and through writing some experiments. And actually these experiments are on myself. And then when I talk about them, I think some people find it useful, and therefore it's a great opportunity for me to share these experiences with you. So let me start this process. As Avnee mentioned, I'm a budding entrepreneur. I started a new company with my friend Ravi Khare and Atul Khandekar from almost 45 years ago. So we were friends 45 years ago, and said, "Chalo, now let's start a company." And so we started this company called Symphony Tech Biologics, which is exploring the space between biology and engineering. I went to school in Lucknow in Kendriya Vidyalaya, and so मेरी हिंदी काफी अच्छी है because मैं इतने साल बाहर रह के भी हिंदी बोल लेता हूँ. That is like a very surprising thing for people. Not surprising, लेकिन लखनऊ रहने का कोई तो फायदा होना चाहिए. तो that was a fantastic experience. And I did my PhD in Bombay. My career experience has been in development of biologics and vaccines. And then I have learned how to do a little bit of public speaking. I won't say I'm a perfect at that, but it's always a journey. And I had an opportunity to talk in JIPMAR, in TEDx. And as Avnee mentioned, I've been in different places over the years. And I like to talk about inflection points. And my own inflection points in my career have been at a point when I was deciding whether to do a PhD or whether to go into marketing. For whatever reason at that time, when I was in my early 20s, I decided I'd do my PhD. And that decision led to my entire career changing, right? And the other decision was about 5 years ago when I was in the US for 30 years, and I had a decision point to make whether I take another job in another company in the US or whether I come back to India and try something different. And I decided to come back to India. And then I'm now in both India and the US, in both places. And I think I'm enjoying where I am in my life right now. And then finally, I'm interested in music. And I use music and art and everything that I do together to explore this issue of self-awareness. So what is self-awareness? I'll talk a little bit about that. Today, I'll talk about a process of becoming aware that I have discovered, planning a strategy around it, and the importance of culture in any organization or in your schools to ensure that you are constantly thinking about culture in a very systematic manner. So that's what I'll talk about today. So awareness is a state of being conscious about something. Okay, that's awareness. So how does one become aware? Awareness comes from being observant of your surroundings and senses all the time. And doing things mindfully. Pausing between activities, not when you're running around all the time. It's always good to stop once in a while and think for yourself, and then listen, both to yourself and to other people. So let's look at a process of awareness of art, okay, using art as an example. If I show you this picture, what would you think? Yes.
I think your voice is coming quite feeble to a lot of our listeners. So
okay.
Is there something that we can do about the volume here?
Yeah, I could speak louder. Can you hear me better?
I can hear you better. Let me just quickly.
Let me try without the headphone and see if that works. Can I try that?
I think yes.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I'm getting a couple of thumbs up now. I think it's fine. We're good.
Is this a little better? Okay. Maybe the headphone. Okay. Good. So let me continue like this. Okay.
I think we're good. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So back to the picture. If I show you this picture, which is of a modern art, one would say, there are few colors in this. There's red, there's blue, there's yellow, there's black, there's white. But I don't understand this picture at all. I mean, I don't know what this means, right? And it is modern art, and it is abstract art, right? It aesthetically looks good. I could do it. It's very easy to do. I could easily do this. So that's sort of what you will get from this piece of art. This piece of art was made by a very, very famous painter whose name is Piet Mondrian. He was born in 1872. He's a Dutch painter, and he's an abstract painter. And he is the initiator of a kind of art called neoplasticism. Piet Mondrian is one of the greatest artists of the 20th century. And he died at the age of 71 in 1944. And these are his pictures in his earlier years, and these are this is in his later years. In 1910, he painted a painting which he called Red Tree. And this is what it looks like. It looks like a nice, beautiful tree, and quite extensive branches, and looks beautiful, right? And you can relate to it. Okay, this is fantastic. It looks like a great tree. A couple of years later, he drew the same tree, but now he blurred it a little bit. Now you can still make out that it's a tree, and it has a good impression, and it has those branches, but now it doesn't have the color that you thought that you saw before. This could be the same tree a couple of years later. This is his impression of that tree. It looks very abstract, but this is what he was seeing. A couple of years later, this is that tree. And then later, this is that tree. If you see this tree of itself, like I showed you in the earlier painting, this is the same painting we saw earlier. If you see this tree in isolation, you will not realize that this is a tree for one, because you don't know the history of this tree, of this picture. You don't know anything about Piet Mondrian when I told you earlier. But now that I've told you so many things, and you know the history of this painting and how this painting came about, and your study of that, you become aware that this is a landmark painting. So much so that all the paintings later on in life that Piet Mondrian made were in this combination of red, yellow, white, blue, and black. And this is just a screenshot of a Google search page of all the paintings that Piet Mondrian made. You can see how he has used this to paint everything. It's not like that he couldn't paint. He was a fantastic real-life painter. These are some of his earlier works before he started doing this neoplasticism. Really beautiful paintings. Another thing to become aware is when he was painting from 1900s to 1940, the whole movement of art was changing. It was not, he was not the only person who was doing modern art. There were hundreds of painters who were painting in the same, they were evolving from realistic painting to impressionist painting to this movement of different movements of abstract art. So there was Fauvism, Cubism, Futurism, Dada, Surrealism, propaganda. In between over here would be neoplasticism. So it was not in isolation. It was done in combination with a lot of different things that were happening around the surroundings. So when you become aware of all of this, that whole painting has a whole different meaning to see. So Piet Mondrian's point was to approach the spiritual in art. One will make as little use of possible as reality, because reality is opposed to the spiritual. So his point of abstraction from the art to the abstract was to get us to start thinking about ourselves. One thing that abstract art does, which real art doesn't do in that extent, it forces you to think inwards, versus realistic art actually forces you to see outwards. So these are subtle things about how to appreciate art. Okay, so that was one method of being aware. Another process of being aware is to draw a figure which looks like this. I call the circle of life. And the center is always you. You make this table for yourself or a graph for yourself on a piece of paper. And in the center, you make a table, you say, what do you like to do? Who are you and what do you like to do? This is not your CV. This is just who you like to do. What's in your mind and what would you like to do? I like to play the flute. I like to write blogs, articles, and lists. And I love to bicycle. This is like what I like to do. Okay, what's happening in my city around me? I used to love to go to music concerts, but all the concerts are now online. I'm waiting for the rainy season. I love the rain. And the environment is so beautiful in my city when I go for a walk these days. Okay, what's happening in my country? There's lockdown, the economy is crisis. I can't think of anything else, but that's what's happening in my country. Of course, many more things are happening in my country that I haven't listed, right? And what's happening in the world? I'm interested in the topic of COVID. More than 25,000 articles have been published in the last 3 months by the biology of COVID, which I'm reading voraciously, and I'm loving it. And ManSpace has made an attempt to go forward. And so all of these things that are happening around you, you have to be aware. What happens in our head is something like this. Oh, I love to play the flute, but I'm not getting any time. Oh my God, because of this lockdown, I'm not able to see any music concert. This is terrible. And I don't know what's going to happen to my job. The economy is really bad. And there are so many papers. How am I going to read all of these? So all of these thoughts are constantly churning in your head and confusing you. When you become a process to become aware of what's happening is to clarify them and put them in separate boxes like this. So when you look at them separately, you can actually become more aware. So one of the things that all of you may be going through, for example, right now, is you may be finishing your school, and you might be thinking, okay, how do I choose a college to go to? So this is a small list of that I made. I'm sure there'll be many more than this. I'll just read these and then develop your short list, rank your priorities, don't procrastinate, focus on your end game, review your curriculum, review the extra curriculum of the college, and investigate whether the college can help you get jobs. But I think here, Avnee, if I can indulge you, maybe you can shed light onto how to choose a college.
Wow, so this is a great list, and I think we almost have about 2,500 odd kids joining us every year at Shoolini. And if there is one thing that we've really focused as a trust, that's on creating infrastructure which is inspirational. So honestly, if I was also a student, back in the days when I went to Delhi University and I did my literature honors from there in Miranda House. One of the reasons I was very keen to go to Delhi University is because of the kind of infrastructure that they had, whether it was in terms of a central library or it was in terms of, large open spaces, eating joints, places, where students and teachers could interact in a lot of informal space, forget about the barrier between a guru and a shishya sometimes. Those are the things that, really attracted a young person, wanting to do higher education. So in fact, that's one thing that I would like to add, apart also from the fact that you should probably look at the kind of people who are driving the education initiative. People who probably come from backgrounds, which lend them credibility, where you can rely on their credibility to make a future for yourself. So these are probably two things that I will probably add to Naren's list. In fact, if you allow me, Naren, I would just play a small video to show you, how we believe we've transformed some of this list items of yours into how we prepare kids at Shoolini. So just 1 second. Let's see if it plays. I don't know how many of you could see those little huts that we've made. We call them the idea huts. They are made of bamboo, completely sustainable architecture. Complete Wi-Fi connectivity. You can move into any of the huts, take your laptop, plug and play. These are, places where kids congregate at the end of the day, and that's where a lot of our patents have come from, by the way, sitting in those huts, ideating with your friends and teachers. The other thing is something that we call the Guru series. So it's a very innovative way of, getting people like Naren to speak to our students, no matter which part of the world they are in. And yeah, a library, which is probably now one of the best libraries in Asia, very, very highly awarded. 24/7, it's open. It's the heart of our university. And even at 2 o'clock, sometimes you can see kids studying there, and it just makes my heart go, wow. I mean, I wish I had a library at DU which was 24/7. So yes, I think inspirational infrastructure is something that, kids should definitely look forward to when they're choosing a campus.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for sharing the beautiful video. Let me continue.
Absolutely.
So back to awareness. So another thing that we all struggle with is how to do. So we do so many things. We have lists, and this is an example of a list of things that we want to do, and we never get through our lists. It's so complicated, right? There's a process of how to get through the list, through a process of awareness, and it's called getting things done. And I'll show you that. So it's called a mind sweep initially, where you write literally everything that is in your brain, you put it into your list. Even if it's like deep into your brain, you put everything down. So I've made a whole list of things, and I'm going to read just some of them. I'm working on a painting. I want to practice my flute. I like to review my investment. I want to meet my friends from high school. I love to surf on Instagram and Facebook. There's a lot of work I do. So I've constantly got work meetings going on. I have an old digital, I want to take all our family photographs and convert them into a digital format. I actually want to learn software programming. I want to learn Python. And I'm also preparing for a 500-kilometer bicycle ride. And such a huge list, that's impossible for me to get through this list. It's just inundated for me to look at this list. There's a beautiful book called Getting Things Done, written by David Allen, and which I strongly recommend that all of you read, because I think it has changed the way I actually do things. There's a lot of aspects in the book, but the book has mainly 5 things it tells you to do. It tells you to capture everything that that's in your mind, which is I just showed you, the mind sweep, and categorize them in a particular way. Then you clarify each of these lists with defining the next action and whether to do it, delegate it, or defer it, organize it geographically, reflect upon it, and then engage on it. Once you follow this process, you can do many things, right? I'll show you how that is possible. So this is the same list that I just showed you, right? Now I have put them into certain categories. Now it's not just a list, it's a list and on different activities. Like for example, if you look in blue, it is all the physical things I want to do. Do yoga and badminton are the same color, right? Work related are all in red. Anything related to the digital part is, for example, on the computer is Facebook, Instagram, digitize old photographs, when writing a book, all that is when I'm in a computer. So what the getting things done process tells you is to categorize your list by geography. So when I am at home, I can work on my painting, I can practice my flute, and I can read the newspaper, right? If I want to train for my 500-kilometer bicycle ride, obviously I can't do that when I'm sitting at home. So the process tells you, don't think about your 500-kilometer bicycle ride when you're sitting at home. Do only things that you can do at home. I can call my friend anywhere, at any time, when I'm anywhere. So that I could do anytime. When I'm on a computer, I can do only these things. When I'm at a gym, I can only play badminton and yoga. I can't read a book over there. I can, but I don't. That's how I categorize it. So this categorization and separating your list becomes very easier to manage, right? I also use an app. There are many apps that you can use to make your list. I like to use Reminders, which is the Apple app. And I've got all of these categories of things that I like to do, right? I've taken my whole list. And then there is, I look at my social media. I have writing projects. I have wellness projects on what I can do on a flight, what am I waiting for, etc. So for example, I'll give you an example. So when I'm on a flight, I can do only these things. I can't do anything else. I can read the book. I was reading Homo Sapiens at that time. I can read the book. I'm writing a book chapter on drug development. I can think about all of these things. I can think about all the topics that I've been reading about. I like to read Dalai Lama books, so I can read Dalai Lama books. I like to review a painter. So I can actually take a book about a painter and read a book about painting. I can practice my tabla. I don't have a place to play the tabla, but I can say it. I can think about the phrases. And I can think about that. That I can do on a plane, right? So when I look at my list, when I'm on a flight, I just open this list and I know what I have to do on a flight. I don't have to think about all of these things. Then when I'm anywhere, I have a list of things I can do anywhere. If I'm sitting in a park and suddenly I think I want to write a letter to someone, right? I can take a piece of paper with me and I can write a letter to someone by sitting in a park. So when I have this list with me already, so things get done very easily once you have these kind of lists. So now, using this process, I have become so efficient that I've done so many things. I've published, in the last 3 months, I've published 5 papers, given 15 online talks, improved my flute playing, doing a lot of more work for my company. I'm working out regularly. I'm reviewing protocols for the COVID task force. I've connected with 7 of my friends after 40 years. I've recorded 5 songs with my friend on YouTube, learned how to cook and make some amazing meals, watched 30 movies, TED Talks, interviews. I've had 5 online meetings with mentors every week for the last 12 weeks, and I made 80 paintings. Just because I follow this process. And I'm not stressed out. So this is a way of evaluating. And Avnee, I'm going to hand it back to you to sort of share your thoughts about how people have accomplished things in Shoolini.
So I think this is amazing. And, we were lucky, Naren was visiting us a couple of months back. And he carries his flute along with him everywhere. And just as he was getting into his car, Atul and I requested, Naren, can you just play the flute for us? Just a little something. And he was just ready with it because he was carrying his flute in the car. And we said, why were you carrying it with you in the first place? And he said, I played in the car. So the point I'm trying to make is, and what I think Naren is also trying to say, that sometimes we really constrain our mind with where we are and what we can do and what we can't do. And this is an amazing framework because now if I have 7, 8, 10 pending calls, I know I can make those calls on my way from point A to point B. I don't necessarily have to be sitting somewhere to get my daily dose of news. I don't necessarily have to be sitting in a workspace to create a to-do list on my phone. So I think this kind of a framework suddenly will tell you that you have a lot more time on your hands than you really think you have.
Yes.
And I think that's where, once again, this whole idea of a space comes in. I mean, geographically is what Naren was also trying to say. So we are trying to break a lot of these barriers, even in the university. My lecturers they don't necessarily have to be in a classroom to take a lecture. They can walk into one of the idea huts and have a small tute session with 7 or 8 of their kids. Our vice chancellor does not have to have his meetings in his conference room. We can all together be at a rooftop cafe in the campus, and we can still have a very serious discussion around rankings and a regulatory framework. So I think not having that constraint in your mind and also allowing yourself and your co-workers the freedom to be effective from whichever place they feel like it. I think that's a great message that I think Naren has just given us.
Yeah.
I think there are some questions. Someone's written. Vikas Dogra is writing.
Yeah, I have a few slides and I'll finish that and I'll come back to the questions.
Sure,
Okay.
sure, Naren.
All right, great. Thank you. And I'm going to finish my part of the presentation. Okay, one thing I want to mention. This is not just an advertisement. I really believe in it. Calm Achievers is a company based in Bangalore where Arif Vakil, this is Arif Vakil, does a training course on getting things done. I would strongly recommend one, reading this book, and second, trying to take this course if you can, because I think it changed my life about how to be efficient. Let me quickly get through another topic quickly. Avnee, if it's okay, it'll take another 5 minutes. So I'll just finish this topic.
Absolutely, absolutely, Naren. Let's go ahead.
Yeah. So another method of becoming self-aware is how to read. There's a book that Mortimer Adler wrote in 1937 about how to read a book. This book was introduced to me by my brother-in-law, Ajit Datar, in Mumbai. What happened was, I was having a conversation with him saying that I don't like to read books. I mean, it's just really difficult for me to read books. And because when I read a book, I take a book, and then after the first few pages, I say, "Arey yaar, I don't like this author. I don't like the style of writing, and I don't like the subject." And I just keep it down and I go to my next book. I never really read the book. What this book tells you about is that the first time you have to read this book tells you that you read every book 3 times. The first time when you read a book, you first listen to the author. So just read the book as if the author is telling you something, right? So that is, first part is listening. During the time when you're listening, you take notes, you highlight the book, etc., etc. The second time you read the book, you analyze the book. This time it takes half the amount of time to read the book because you've already marked the many pages that you feel important. This time, analyzing means you're having a conversation with the author. You're telling the author, "Hey, you said this, I think this, etc., etc." You're having a conversation with the author. And the only time you're allowed to read the book a third time is if you've read another book of the same subject. That time you can say, "Oh, that person said that. How come you're saying this? I feel like this is the thing." So this way, now you're having a multiple conversation with the text in the book. And now you can criticize the book and you can do all of these things. The trick is you have to be aware that you are listening, analyzing, and criticizing the book at the same time. When you do all of these and you follow this process, it becomes very easy and fast to read a book. The book is about 200 pages and it tells you many more things about how to take notes, how to mark the book, how to highlight, discuss, how to reference. It tells you a lot of different things of how to read a book. This is another book that has changed the way I read books. So, and this is another topic that the book talks about, how to underline, how to take vertical lines, star, asterisks, the doodads that you have to write in the book. I won't say destroy library books, but if it's your personal book, there's no reason you can't mark it properly. Based on this methodology of how to read a book, in the last 5 to 6 years, I have read. It takes me about 2 weeks to read a book 3 times. I've also read so many books on science. Like I'm a biologist, and in physics and chemistry, physics and mathematics was quite far away. And by telling you that I really think that the culture of learning and the culture around you and being aware of all of these things is so important. And we can do a Q&A session. Thank you so much. What wow. I will, so I don't know, Avnee is back, otherwise.
That's like a lot of reading you do, yeah. Naren, and my gosh. And I thought I was an avid reader. So I've got some stiff competition.
Yeah, no, I think if you read, my awareness of reading a book changed when I read that book, and I took the advice of how to read the book. That really helped me understand what I'm reading.
So I think let's move to the Q&A. There's a very interesting question by Vikas Dogra. And he's giving a situation. He says that, sometimes the same work is assigned to two people in an institution. And there's a deadline which is given. But one person takes the initiative, does the work. And if he submits the work, then it is said that you're not a team player because the other person, unfortunately, was passive and never went back to completing the work. So how do you handle such a situation?
So, very good question. And there's no simple answer to this. I think different managers in companies operate in different ways based on the experience that they've had in their own careers. Some people like to use competition as a way to get work done, to tell two people to do the same thing, and then whoever wins, wins. It's sort of a race, and then you get multiple ideas. To the other side, where some companies don't like the competition part and they like people to collaborate and get things done faster. In my own personal opinion, I like the collaborative mode. I feel like the collaborative mode is definitely much more productive. It is much more humane, and it allows people to work together to get to a final solution. But we live in the real world, so there are people who are competing. So I don't have a specific answer for you of how you would answer your question. What would you do if there's a competition and you get all situations? It's a whole process of understanding what you're doing and why you're doing what you're doing. This applies not only to the manager who's telling you what to do, but also to the persons who are actually doing it. So the more aware and more kind and the more humane everybody starts thinking, I think the whole process will just fall in place.
So let me counter question this, Naren, and it happens with us a lot many times. Are you then somewhere saying that the organization should be okay with a little bit of less speed sometimes, but the fact that the employees get together and deliver on a task? Because I think the managers also become very impatient sometimes about deadlines.
Yeah. So it's a dog eat world world, and a lot of people are constantly in competition with each other. And in my state, in my career, I'm sort of spent 35 years of my career. I'm still going to work for the next 20 years. But the point is, every stage of your career, you're in a different mindset. Right. So if you're in that mindset of competition, deadlines, timelines, beating the competition, of course, it's important from a corporate perspective. I'm not saying that that's not important. But if that starts affecting your personality, if it starts affecting who you are, then you need to be aware that that's happening.
True.
Because if you're unaware that I'm in this competitive mode and I will not, I will not spare anyone who helps, who doesn't follow my guideline, and then move forward, then that person is not in my company, right? That's it. It sounds really terrible when you put it in a company. But if I was competing in an Olympic sport and I wanted to become first, right? Collaboration is not a great thing. I'm going to collaborate with my guy I'm running with to see who will come first. That is not a place to do collaboration.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
being aware of the situation you are in is really important. It's great to be competitive in sport, but maybe if you want to get things done in a more efficient way, that's not where to put collaboration. That's not where to put competition.
I would agree. I think that answers our question. Akshat Gupta, I think, happens to be probably a student. He's asking, how do you manage your time between studying and playing? And I think that's a question a lot of students struggle with. And eventually they don't end up playing at all. They just end up studying. So how do you manage the balance between the two?
Thank you. Thank you for that question, Akshat. I think it's a very important question. I also struggle with that many, many times. I don't say I'm perfect and do everything correctly. I showed you a list of things that I do. What I didn't write in there is I stress out so many times. I get angry at things that I didn't do or angry at someone. So what I like to do is to set up a routine. So these last 3 months have been very, very useful. Initially, it was a little difficult, but later on, now I'm in a little bit steady state. So I get up in the morning, I have 3-4 hours of calls with people. And when I have these calls, then I'm not thinking about something else. Then I spend some time, making lunch, having lunch. Then after lunch, I watch a movie. So I do that, and then I take a little nap in the afternoon, and when I get up, I have my chai or whatever, and then I go for a walk again outside. I come back, and then you catch up with friends and on the phone or if in person, and then do a little bit more of things, and then I have this routine. So my routine is very, very important for me, so that I can do many things at different times. So, for example, if you're asking me this question, whether I should study or whether I should play, you pick a time that you want to play. Let's say you come back from school and 5 to 6 you have some time, or 5 to 7 you have some time. Assign that time to play, and when you play, don't think about work, don't think about study. When you come back, have a shower, you have your dinner or whatever, and then you spend time, let's say 9 to 10 or whatever time you want to study. Then you study with full focus. That time, don't think about playing.
I think that's where the whole concept of mindfulness comes in, right? So mindfulness also means that, when you're doing a task, you focus on that task, and then you let go of any other worries, which are there in your mind. And of course, having discipline, I think more often than not, we give a little more weightage to studying and any work-related thing. But we forget that, meditation is important, so is yoga, so is playing sports. So the way you are disciplined about your homework, if the same way you're disciplined about playing, I think the two eventually will stop clashing.
Yeah, a thought came when you said the word meditation. So I also have tried to meditate, and it's damn difficult to meditate. It's very difficult. Medication tells you not to think about anything, right? That's the ultimate. When I close my eyes, oh my God, my brain goes crazy. Of all the things that I haven't done and haven't accomplished and all of that, right? But think about this. I like to play tennis. And one of the days when I was playing tennis, when I was actually playing, after the game, I sort of started thinking about, hey, when I'm playing the game and I'm in the middle of a 10-point rally, what am I thinking about? Am I thinking about anything? And it turns out for that 10-point rally, I was not thinking about anything else other than that ball. I was actually not even thinking about the opponent. I was just thinking about that ball. So if you reflect and become aware, in your brain, in those 10 minutes or 10 in that game, you were actually meditating.
That's true.
But you're not aware that you were meditating. So in fact, I'm meditating when I'm playing tennis.
And that's a myth a lot of people have. People say that, meditation means getting into a certain mudra, sitting, calm, peace, quiet. Atul and I, when we cook together, that's our time to meditate, because we're really feeling every ingredient with our hands, and we're taking in the aroma and cooking a lovely dish. And I think that's meditation. So anything that you focus yourself 100% on with all your mental and physical energy, I think that becomes meditation for you.
So true, so true.
We have another question here, Naren, and this time it's from Kritika Sharma. She's asking, how do you focus on cracking a competitive exam without really getting doubtful or nervous about it?
All right. So Avnee, I'm going to put you on the spot first, and then I'm going to take the shot at that, because you're in the education business. I'll let you answer the question first, and then I'll give you my perspective. I'm cheating a little bit because I'm going to take some time to think about this.
I figured that out. So Kritika, I'm honestly not the best person to advise you on this, but let me tell you, I've never cracked any competitive exam except one, which was a competitive exam for getting into Miranda House, into their literature program. I got rejected from LSR. I just lost LSR by 1 mark. And I probably almost lost Miranda House, because I got really, really nervous before my interview. And that's when I spoke to my dad and I said, I don't think so. I never made it to LSR. I did not crack my IIT JEE mains. And I think I'm not going to get into Miranda also. And my dad made a point. He said, this is the worst. What's the worst that can happen? I said, the worst that can happen is I'll end up in some C-grade college in DU. Probably not in DU. He said, what's the best that can happen? I said, the best that can happen is I just crack Miranda and I'm a literature honors graduate 3 years from now. So he said, life still goes on between the two ends, right? And that's when my mind really calmed down. So I think thinking about the best possible situation and the worst possible situation brings you back to reality. That's when your mind really calms down, and that's when you really focus on the task at hand. I think that's the way to crack a competitive exam. You should know what you will achieve and what you will not achieve, and the life between the two. I think that's my advice.
Wow, I cannot give a better answer than that. So let's move to the next question.
Okay. There's another one. How to choose a career? Anonymous attendee is asking us.
Yeah. So maybe some other time I'll talk a little bit more in detail about that. And it's a dilemma that all of us face. But to tell you very, very briefly, the way I think about careers and the way I have started advising and looking at some of my own notes is that you make these lists of things that you want to do. So in the middle, I draw four or five boxes. So in the middle box, you write what you want to do, what you can do, what your capabilities and skills are. On the right, you make another box. You say, okay, what do you want to do? And what is the easiest thing that you can do next? You're in high school and you're going to finish high school. And this is the college that you want to go to. And there's a very simple college that you can go to. There might be some college that there's a very high probability, 80% probability that you will get into that college. Because, you're close by and everything, you can easily get into that college. Then you write on the top of this box, you write another box where you say, I'd like to go to this college, which is in this place, but there's only a 50% probability that I will be able to get into that school because of my X, Y, Z, right? And you write everything that you think why you should get into that college, and you also write why you think you won't get into that college. Then you make a fourth box on the bottom of this middle box, and you write, and there's only 20% probability that you'll get there. You write a college that you want to go to, expectations, right? And then you say, okay, why would you not get into that college? You write your notes over there. And there's a fifth box, which is on the right side of this middle box, which is called the dream box, which is if there were no constraints, what would you like to do? And you write that in this box. And when you do when you fill all of these 5 boxes, then your decision of what you want to do becomes very, very clear. Because again, your mind is playing tricks on you. You're saying, in the middle box, you're saying, this is what my skills are. I would like to go to this college, which is nearby my house because I'm near my parents. Yeah, but I would also like to go to this fantastic college, which is in Kashmir in the hills, right? But I also want to go to abroad. I want to go abroad and I'd rather study abroad. But I really don't care about going to college. I want to paint. All of these thoughts are going on constantly in your head. And you don't know which one is right. So by downloading all of them into these separate boxes and stepping back from it and looking at this process allows you to clarify what you really want and then make decisions between practical and impractical things. It's a long answer to your question.
I think that's great advice. I think a lot of us, many times, we underplay the importance of a piece of paper and pen. I think we really have got into this whole, thing of doing listing on our phones and, being on our laptops all the time. But good old fashioned pen and paper still brings a lot of clarity, guys. You can try it. We've tried it hundreds of times. With 15 years of experience under my belt, sometimes when I still get confused about things, I still strategize on paper, and then we move on to making our PowerPoint presentations. So I think that's one great piece of advice. Thank you, Naren. We have another anonymous attendee asking us, it takes 6 to 7 hours at school, a couple of hours going to and fro, then we have our tuition classes. Do you really think that we have any other time for any other activity except for studying? I mean, how do you do it?
Yeah, again, very good question. Every stage of your life, you'll have to figure out yourself what is the best way to use your time, right? There are 24 hours of the day, and then you know how much you sleep. So whatever time is available is the time that you have. Now you judiciously plan what you want to do in those 24 hours. Let's say you come back home. I'll just give you one simple example, and you make a priority list of what you want to do, like the way I showed you in that getting things done. If you come home, there are certain things that you can do, right? When you have that list. Many times what happens, you don't even bother to look at that list. You say, oh, my God, it's a stressful day. Yeah, I just want to watch TV for some time. And then you end up watching TV for 2 hours, right? In principle, if you are aware and you know that there was something important to do or something you wanted to really accomplish and it's in your list, right? Look at that list and do the thing that is on the top of that list. Don't watch TV that day. And when you do that way, I'm not saying watching TV is not important. If it is important, put it on that list. Watch TV. And then when you watch TV, only watch TV. Don't do anything else, right? So when you do it in a very aware and systematic manner, you will be amazed at yourself how many things you can accomplish. I learned it myself. And I haven't done this for like a lot of time. This getting things done training, I just did 5-6 years ago. Only just now. Before that, I was chaotic as everyone else.
So we have another question from Kritika, and she's saying, how do you believe in yourself? And then anonymous attendee is asking us, how are you so confident, Naren?
Oh, very, very good question. One way to believe in yourself is another process that I have sort of figured out for myself, and this is something that I learned sort of serendipitously, and then later on I sort of adopted it myself. Again, it comes as this part of awareness process. You have to become aware of things around you. So what happened was I was in University of Pennsylvania in the early 90s. And one of the things our chairman of that department, Dr. Jim Wilson, was a very famous professor. He told all the department heads at that time, and I was the head of immunology group. He used to say, please send me every week, please send me a list of things that you do, that your department does, so that I can keep track. And the department was a huge department. It was 500-600 people in the department, and he was the head. And this was his way of knowing what each department was doing. And he would say to every department head, please send me a list of things that you do every week, every Friday. And he was very religious about it. When we sent him the list of things that we did every Friday, by Monday, he would have actually responded to every point that I had sent him from our department. So he actually took the time, and saw from 10 different departments what each department was doing. For some time, I started writing those lists, and at some point I said, what the hell? Why should I be? I'm a professor. Why should I be, writing these documents like this? I'm not a student. Why should I be writing a list of 7 things? But then I started becoming aware. Am I writing it for him, or am I writing it for myself? When you start writing it for yourself, you see the enormous value of that. And since 1990 to now, how many years that is? Every Friday or Saturday, I write 7 things that I have accomplished that week. I have a list from that time. I have a list, and it's written in my notebook. Right? Wow. What that does to you is that, to answer your question, how do you believe in yourself? Every week, I'm doing 7 amazing things. Every day, you've done something fantastic, but you forget that I've done something fantastic. It could be as simple as I slept the whole day one day. But that's an accomplishment. And if you consider that as an accomplishment, and you see that you've accomplished things, you say, oh my God, look at the things I've done in 1 week, 1 year, 2 years, 5 years. You have a massive list of things. Once you look at that list, it sort of realizes, and then you feel like, okay, I'm actually contributing to the world. So a long answer, Kritika, but hopefully you heard that help.
No, I completely agree. And let me also let you into a little secret, all of you who are here now. This is the first time I'm on a live webinar, and just before we started, I was telling Naren I'm extremely nervous. I've never done this before. And I think it's a great tip because, when you keep reminding yourselves of the great things you've done, it just boosts your confidence, and that leads you to a greater belief in yourself. We have a very amazing comment from one of our attendees. He says, I meditate when I'm playing PUBG. So I think he must be really focusing on it when he does. There's another question, and again from the anonymous attendee, and a couple of questions around what kind of books people should read. A lot of people are saying we've just started reading books. We are new to books. How do you choose a great book? And, how do you choose knowledgeable yet interesting books?
Yeah. There is no one easy method to tell you which books to read. You take advice from, your parents, your peers, your friends, and see what books they have read. Obviously, on the internet, you can always Google and find out top 10 books that people are reading, or Times of India top 10 books. Every week, I'm sure Times of India comes up with a list of which books to read. I think don't worry about all these lists and tells you what.
think about what would you like to read. Make a list of what are the topics you would like to read. Okay, I want to read about how to go to a college. That's your probably top on your mind. There are lots of books on how to go to college. There is a, I'm going to be funny a little bit. There's a love story. You may be in love with someone, that might do something, right? Read a nice love novel because, it might give you a method of how to get your girlfriend or boyfriend. So think of what's in your brain and read to emphasize what's in your brain, learn about what's going on in your brain, read about that topic. And who can help you with that? Only you can help yourself with that topic. No one else can tell you.
So I think we've got another 5 minutes and a lot of questions even now.
Sure.
Another question from anonymous attendee. One is not sure while preparing for a competitive exam. So should an alternative be kept in case one can't achieve that? I think I'm going to just take this one, Naren, and then we'll come back
I was
to
going
you
to give it to you anyway.
So guys, what I've believed in life is very simple. वो कहते हैं ना हिंदी में दो नाव में जो सवार होता है वो कहीं नहीं पहुंचता है लाइफ में. So my view is that you should put all your energy and resources behind the one dream that you're really, really passionate about. Whether it's becoming the best sports person, or it's about getting into an Ivy League university, or it's about being the best chef. Even if you want to be the best cobbler, I mean, you should just aim to be the best cobbler in the country. So I personally believe that when you keep two options, it takes away your focus from the one thing that you really want to do. And I think unless you miserably fail at the first one, you shouldn't probably keep the second option. That's my view. Naren, what would you suggest?
I think you said it really well. From my own experience, you are in college and you're thinking about what to do in college. Don't think that whatever you decide right now is something that you're going to do for the next 40 years. That's not what's going to happen. You might be very passionate about doing something, and you might want that passion might be there. You might do it for 10 years. There's no reason you can do something completely different after 10 years. So don't lock yourself to think, okay, I'm going to choose engineering, and if I choose engineering, then for the rest of my life, I'm now committed to doing engineering. After 10 years, there's no reason why you can't start painting and become a full-time painter. There's no reason you can't do that. So don't worry about the long term. Think about what you want to do now, because your mind will change based on the experience that you have.
There's another question, interesting one. It's happened with me, and we will ask Naren for his views. What do you do when what you want to do and what your parents want you to do are two completely different things?
Yeah, so very good question. Obviously, parents are not giving you advice on what to do and not to do because they want your life to be miserable. All parents want their children's lives to be very successful and happy and all the good things. They want all good things for their lives. So when they advise you of what to do, they are telling you because they have seen you grow up and they think they know what you might want because you're their child. And they also have seen the world. So they have seen the world in their eyes and they say, Ye hone wala hai tum logo. This is the possibilities of what can happen. And we've seen what you can do. So they're trying to put their gyan into you, right? Take advice from them. Many times their advice actually is a very good advice. If you think about it, it will be very good. Many times you're making your own decisions based on some gut feeling, because you've not got 100, 20, 30 years of experience. So you feel like, let's say the same example, engineering and painting, right? Your parents tell you, please do engineering. And, and you say, engineering, mathematics, I don't like mathematics. I want to do painting, right? And then you'll rebel against your parents. So they are making me do engineering. I want to do painting. The reason they may be telling you to do engineering is that, hey, if you do your engineering, I know it will be difficult for you, but your life will be stable. You'll get a good job, and that's what they want you to do, right? But you know what? In engineering, you will learn engineering drawing, which will actually improve your art.
Wow.
You don't think about that.
Yeah.
So when you become aware and listen to your parents, your life will change.
Oh, there's another 10, 11 questions. I'm not sure we can answer all of them, but I'm just going to pick up the interesting ones. So there's one on how to stop procrastinating. I usually end up procrastinating How do I deal with it? I think I just have one line of advice for you: stop procrastinating. That's the only way to, that's the only way to move forward in life. Someone's,
Yeah.
go ahead, Naren,
I
please.
have one on procrastination, and
Please.
again the same line. If you want to procrastinate, please procrastinate. Put it on your list that I'm procrastinating. Please spend some specific amount of time for procrastinating, and then move to the next point in the list.
Have you found a cure for COVID? I'm just asking. So there's anonymous attendee again asking you a question.
You know, it's amazing times in medicine. You know, the amount of work that is being done in medicine for COVID is just phenomenal. Collaboration that is happening. There are a few lead drugs that are coming out. Remdesivir, which is the antiviral drug. Then there is, you know, the other drugs that are blocking different parts of the viral immune system or the viral response. Tocilizumab, which is an antibody blocker. So a lot of different things are coming out in very, very short time. What usually has taken 10, 15 years to develop is coming out in 3-4 months, which is miraculous. It's a very exciting time in the field of medicine.
Hopefully we'll get a cure very soon. I think the world badly needs it. I'm just going to take 2 more questions. I think we've already overshot on the time. Some bunch of people are asking about Shoolini. So Naren, if you just allow me a quick 1 minute. So guys, Shoolini was established in 2009. My father-in-law started Shoolini. It was his dream. He dreamt about Shoolini at the age of 65. It's got a very interesting story. With just about 20 lakhs in his pocket, he decided to make this university. He had just come back from Oxford after doing his postdoc from there. And he wanted to, give very high impact, high quality education at affordable prices to Indians. That's the dream with which he started Shoolini, and now pretty much our entire family is into it. I used to work with PwC as a consultant in Gurgaon. I left my job. I was poached. Atul Khosla, who's the pro vice chancellor, he used to work with McKinsey and Company. He got poached, and all of the great minds, in the family are now running this great institution. We've got about 135 odd programs. So somebody was asking about streams. We are largely a biotechnology and a food technology university. We focus on innovation. We focus on sciences. But that's not to say that our liberal arts programs and management programs are not amazing. They're equally amazing, because I think there's a common thread which binds us all at Shoolini. That's passion, and that's creativity and innovation in everything we do. So come and experience the Shoolini magic. I won't really be able to do justice in a 30-second spiel about Shoolini. We are accepting visitors through quarantine means. So every Friday, the university is open for people to come and have a look. So yeah. Do come and see us. One last question. There are a lot of kids who are doing small scale businesses these days. Should they do it? Should they focus on something extra, or should they just focus on their studies?
Yeah, so I think there is time and place for everything. I mean, if you're really passionate about what business you want to do, I would say absolutely go ahead. But I personally think, in your youth, in your school years, college years, there is value of education. So spend some time educating yourself, because it's a long life ahead, right? So why not get the gyan from all the elders at the time that you are going to receive the education, and then you have another 50, 60, 80 years to explore anything you want to do. The early lives is actually about learning. So spend time learning. When your foundation becomes solid, then how high you can jump will be much higher than if you don't have that education. So that would be my advice.
That's great advice. Thank you so much, Naren. Thank you so much, audience. There's still a lot of questions pouring in. I'm probably going to send them to Naren, and he can send some of the replies back to DAV Ludhiana. Thank you, Naren. Thank you once again. Thank you, DAV Ludhiana, for joining us today. I'm sure you have a lot of other things you want to ask Naren, and I promise, if you allow, we'll bring him back for another exciting session with all of you. My heartfelt thanks to Shikha for organizing this. Thank you so much. The ones who missed, please share the link with them. They can watch us again on YouTube. And till we see you again for the next webinar with Naren and somebody as interesting. Thank you very much. Thank you, Kamal. Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone.